godsend. But I wonder if you know what I use it for. When you have your pattern and it has those kind of notches on the side of the pattern, and you've got your fabric underneath, you're cutting your fabric out, you're putting it right there, and you've got it cut out right against there, and you've got notches to do. I used to cut it with a pair of scissors, but this is really handy, because what I do here is I put it there onto the knot. Now I'm doing this through the camera. Notch that, and there's your notch. When you've got a double one, I go there, 1, 2, there, and you've got 2 notches. Take the paper away, and then I have a little notch there and 2 notches there. You don't have to make the notches go as far in. If you don't want them to go as far in, you just have to make them go a little bit on the edge. Don't have to go as far, and you can make a little shorter notch. But I have found that's really handy when I'm cutting out patterns and I want to notch stuff. So much easier to get my hand around and do that than to try and get the scissors and cut it a triangle. Or I have to admit, sometimes I've done little snips. One little snip on the side, one little snip on the side like that for 1 and 2 for when it's a double one, and then that shows me where the double one is there, can you see, and where the single one is. But I much prefer this one, where I can do that and put a little notch in. For beginners, this is handy because you can actually see where those notches are. They actually show up better. If I open that up, you can see they actually show up much better. So that's the first one. The second one is, I find incredibly handy as well, and I've used this several times, is this kind of a bodkin for a lot of reasons. It's got a little slidey thing on here, and you push it. What you do is you grab a hold of the fabric, put the jaws onto the fabric, and then you slide this little washer thing along. And when you do that, that grips tightly onto that. It grips tightly. So what you can also do is if you wanted to pull elastic through a casing, that would be your elastic. This will be this will fasten onto it, and you can pull it through the casing. You pull that as much as you like, and it won't come away. So that's what I like about it. I've often used a safety pin, but I'm finding this is really, really handy. I also use it sometimes. What I do is when I've got a tube of something, I sometimes put it in that way and put the elastic on there if I'm feeding elastic through, and then I feel for to push this up like that, push it through the fabric, to push it up, and then I'll pull that down, and that stays in place and it pulls the elastic through. Really, really handy little gadget that for pulling your elastic through, turning things inside out. And it's very handy. I have to have that by the side of my machine as well. The next one is a lighter. I like to have a little lighter with me, because not that I'm going to set fire to anything, but the lighter is handy when you're doing something with man-made fabrics and you want to stop it from kind of fraying a bit, or you want to seal it. Then by running that along the fabric, it stops it fraying. Say for example ribbons, if you're using a ribbon, or an example here is I have labels here. I have labels that say Micheline. Now look at that, it goes like that, it starts to fray. So if I want to stop that fraying, I just run that along there like that, and it stops it fraying. Completely stops it fraying. So if I was going to cut that, it would fray. And the same thing here, look how the other end, I have some I don't know if you can see that. If I go to the dark there, to that dark part there, you can see it's fraying. Run that along there, just very quickly, and that stops it fraying. So this is really handy. I always have to have that handy. And so that is kept in my little box that I've now got. I was telling you about it, the little plastic box that I assemble. I keep that nearby. It's also handy for ribbons and things if you're doing anything with ribbons or anything where you know that it's going to fray and you want to stop it from fraying. So the lighter is really handy for that. The next one is, I love this. I just love this gadget. I love this because it is a spool holder. Now I've got a box that takes spools and I've got all sorts of other things, but I find this is really, really handy. Each one turns. Each one has different ones. I've actually got this full at the moment. I've just filled it with lots of different colours of threads. As I say, I have got another, but I've got one of those boxes that you keep the threads and spools in. Don't like that. I like this because I keep this on my desk and I can quickly pick it up and see what colour I have and decide on, you know, if I'm doing purple, I can see the purple there, or I can look for another purple. I've got a darker purple there, and I find this handy. Not only do I find it handy for that, but I also find it handy for this. Now, I told you about this in the first vlog. This is what I use. It's actually the poppers, the plastic popper thing for pushing holes through the fabric. I like to keep that there. And like that, I can, whenever I want to use it, I know that it's there and I just put it in the middle. I also use it if I want to get a thread out, because they're not always easy to get out. I get it, supposing I want that blue one, then I just do that and I pop it out with that. So that's another reason why I like it. But it goes on top there and I know it's always there when I need it. And another thing that I've used it for is one of my machines, the actual spool, the peg that holds the thread is broken, and I've got a replacement one, but I can't remember where I've put it, and I need to fix it back on. I need to take the casing off the machine and fix it on, but I can't remember where I've put it, and when I find it I will do it. But in the meantime, I haven't got any way of holding the thread, so sometimes I do this. I take, if I can pull this on, I take that and I have that at the back of my machine, and I thread it through the handle and through the machine as I would do normally, and then it acts as a little thread, a little spool holder for me. Another thing that I do, I was wanting to use another spool of thread which was too narrow to go onto the top of there, so I've got a little box and I had one of these what do you call it, chopsticks, and I used that to hold it on and had that directed towards the machine. But yes, I find it really, really handy popping a thread on there. Sometimes if I have too many spools, I will put one up there and then put one up there like this. I'll show you there, and that goes on top as well. But I've just got the right amount here so that can go back into there, and that is absolutely, I would be absolutely demented if I lost that, if that disappeared, because it is so handy. The next thing that I have over the years, since the internet, I've watched all these vlogs, and I've watched people using scissors to cut the thread. And I've seen them using this sort of thing with the little curves, and they were handy, very handy. Pick them up and then cut them with the scissors, but they weren't working for me. Then I saw one girl use something like this, where you squeeze them together and it snips the threads. Tried those, didn't work for me. The one thing that I do, the one gadget that I do like, and I just have to have these by me, are these ones. They're metal, and I actually bought them from Amazon. I bought a pack of 10, I think it is. I'll put a link down below for these, but I got a pack of 10 and they all came like that. I'm now down to 7. Well, I'm not down to 7. They've all gone extra in other places. I have one on my desk, I have one up in the bedroom, and I have other ones. I've given away some to the grandkids when they're sewing. And the thing I like about them is they cut your nails. I use them to cut my nails. I don't use the same ones. I have a pair that I use for cutting my nails. I find them handy for snipping things on my office desk. Handy here for threads. I use them for cutting buttonholes. I use them for when I'm sewing, just a quick snip of the thread off the end of the fabric, and you know, really, really good at doing, you know, just a quick snip like that. Look at that. Really good for cutting, and they're so handy, and they are also good for snipping open buttonholes. And I always use these to snip my buttonholes open. They are, for me, they're the best ones. That they are the best ones to use. They're the ones that I have found handy. So some of you may say, oh well, I prefer these ones, and I think there's another metal kind like that where these ones, you squeeze the plastic and it closes it like that. Is that focusing there? But I don't like those. What I kept finding is they kept slipping around my fingers when you're holding it. And so I never use those. They rarely come off my hook. Whereas these ones, I find you can grip them like that, snip, 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 snip. I even use them sometimes to snip the hair. But they're really, really handy. They're kind of spring loaded, and they're really good. These are, I would say these are top of my list. If I don't have one of these around, I absolutely get panicky. You know, I keep saying, where on earth is it? Where's my snippers? Where's my snippers? And you know, we don't like other people to use our scissors. I don't like him picking these up either. So as I say, I'm down to 7 in this room. There are more. I may be reordering some more and they come in different colours. You get red, green, blue and turquoise, different colours. I've mentioned these tools in the past, and I find these handy, especially the long ones. And I bought these accidentally. I didn't think they were very big. These are these tools. Oh, do you know, I forgot what they were called when I first did them, and somebody told me hemostats. And the nice thing about hemostats is you can grip something, and this little lock here catches, and then you can pull it through. You can pull it, you know, if you're pulling something through a tube or anything. I actually got that one, and I ordered them, and they were a bit on the short side, so I thought, oh, I'll get a longer pair. But then the longer pair that I ordered was a bit on the long side, because that's the length that they are. They're about 10 or 12 inches across. But by golly, these are handy as well for when you're wanting to pull something through. Really, you can get a hold of it and pull it through. You can go right inside and try and catch whatever it is. So you try and catch, you can lock it and then pull it through like that. And I find that's handy. Very similar to the bodkin, but because it's longer, you can get really into belts or whatever, into waistbands, and pull the elastic through if you need a longer tool. So that's the other one. Now the final tool that I have is a tool that nobody will have told you about. I have 2, and one of them is in particular is my favorite. These actually went into my when I retire box when I was 60. I bought them for the intention of doing art, of painting and doing watercolors or acrylics or something. And I bought these 2, and they're not paintbrushes. They've got rubber on them. That is rubber. This one has a facet on there on both sides. It goes like a point there. Can you see? And this one is just a pointy one. It looks like a paintbrush when you wet a paintbrush and you make it go to a point. That one is fine, but this one is a godsend. But I wonder if you know what I use it for. Did you figure out what I use this for? I use this for my serger. And the reason I use it for my serger is this has a grip on it. It's like a rubber and it's got a grip, and I find it incredibly handy when you're threading your thread through your machine, your serger machine, and you've got to pass the thread through to the back. And as you know, it's not easy to try and get the thread through the back. Normally you'd use these to pass the thread through, which is, they're just as good, handy, but I kept getting frustrated because I couldn't often get a hold of it and move it through. This, you pick the thread up on your hand, you can pick the thread up and slide it along very easily, and I'll show you what I mean. This is the best thing since sliced bread. As my French cousins, who were fascinated by the years and years ago, they're fascinated that the British had sliced bread, and they were saying, oh, it's lovely, it's we want French bread, we want sliced bread, not French bread. And we were saying we want French bread, not sliced bread. But this is an absolute, oh, I just love having it for when I'm threading threads, or I want to push the thread and the serger through. That is absolutely wonderful. You get them at I either got them at Poundland or an art shop, or a pack from WH Smith, who's now called TB Jones or JB Jones or something. But they are really handy little rubber things. I think they came as a set of 3, and that stays in my little box, of tools, which I shall show you sometime. But it's that's my box of tools, of all the things that I like to have beside me when I'm sewing. So there you go. I'm going to leave you there, and I hope that one of those gadgets, if you haven't got them, you may like to try them. And if you have got them, you might like to tell me down below what you think of them, and if you use them, and how often you use them, or anything that you can suggest, tools that you can suggest that I haven't come across that you found is very handy. Let me know in the comments below. So I'm going to love you and leave you and catch you next time. Bye.